Good day everyone, I'm AzureBlaze, and this is the second part of the Kirby / Mario Marathon My Thoughts thing that I've been doing on my channel since last month, where I started with Kirby's Dream Land for the Game Boy. This episode, I'm going to be discussing my thoughts on the original Super Mario Bros. That came out on the NES in 1985, and I played it in a little bit of an odd way, actually. I first played the remake of this game from Super Mario All-Stars. And for those who don't know what Super Mario All-Stars is, I'm pretty sure most people probably do, however for those who don't, it is a collection of Mario 1, The Lost Levels 2 and 3 remade all together in one little package. Sometimes the collections include Mario World as well, however I believe this one that's on the Switch does not, because they have it separately on the Switch anyway. However, yeah, it released on the SNES in 1993, I believe. And I think this is probably the order I'm going to be playing the first 4 games, where I'm going to be playing the All-Stars version first and then the original version afterwards. I'll probably play the All-Stars version all the way through, playing all the main levels, probably not most of the side content, because I don't really feel I need to. I feel I get enough out of the game by playing all of them. And then I'll go back to the original one, and then I'll take like warps and all sorts of things like that, and carry on all sort of that way. However, playing it in this order makes it fun to compare them, like seeing how it's all been remade and all that sort of thing, and how the physics have changed, I guess, is probably the best way to have a look. The first game, Super Mario Bros. And its subsequent remake, I guess, does not have that many stages in it. It's understandably, it came out in 1985. I believe it was a launch title for the NES. I might be wrong about that. However, I believe it was. However, there is probably a little bit too many stages to talk about in this video, therefore I'll probably talk about some stages that stood out. To be honest though, most of the stages do feel the same in this game, and yeah, I'll sort of get into the ones that I think feel a bit different, I guess. 1-1 and 1-2, which are the first levels, while I think most of the game sort of copies like ideas and themes and straight off this one, and sort of like makes it a little bit harder each time, is probably what it does. It's probably the best way to describe it. However, yeah, 1-1 and 1-2, I think they're really iconic and recognizable stages, to be honest, and I think they set a really good groundwork. 1-1 is the one with all the blocks as soon as you go in, and you can hit the mushroom out, and then you run through. It's a very simple level, and it sort of defines what Mario is, I think. And then 1-2 is sort of sets the standard of what a second stage of a game could be, where it goes underground, it is in sort of a different theming, and there's at least in this game and other Mario games, there's warp points in the second level, which I think it's an interesting thing that Mario, I think, has kept up over the many years. However, the real stages that felt I guess not really different, however stood out the most, were World 8 in general, the entirety of World 8. Specifically though, if we're going into it, 8-3 and 8-4, because World 8 itself is for some reason really difficult, I found. Whether it is for most people or not is something else. However, for me at least, World 8 was really difficult. And the biggest problem I had with 8-3 and 8-4 specifically were the Hammer Bros. 8-3 has them on a little long strip that you have to run along. 8-3 is filled with them. They're all you have to go under them, and all their platforms and everything like that. And those ones aren't too bad. I think the biggest problem with Hammer Bros in the original Mario game is they feel really random, and there's not much of a pattern that I feel I could pick up on. Sometimes it felt like there may have been, however, most of the time it felt pretty random. There probably is a fairly big pattern, however I'm missing it, therefore I don't know. And yeah, 8-3 is filled with all of them. The biggest problem I have with them though is there's one part right near the end of the stage where it's this long line with a block that you can jump over every now and then, and it's Hammer Bros all over it. And you can take out the first one, I believe, with a Koopa shell, which is what I ended up doing a lot. However, trying to get past these other two, I ended up damage boosting my way through pretty much every time, because I simply could not do it. It was frustrating me. And then in 8-4, which is the final stage of the main game, I'm pretty sure there is special stages after the game, however I didn't play any of them. In 8-4 there is a Hammer Bros, I don't know. There's one right before the Bowser battle, the Bowser battle. And yeah, no, I think it was really difficult to get past to get to the Bowser battle. I actually had more trouble with the Hammer Bro than I did the Bowser battle, despite the fact that the Bowser battle, that Bowser was basically a Hammer Bro. I had trouble with him as well, however, nowhere near as much trouble as this one little Bowser Bro, the Bowser Bro. Now I'm saying Bowser Bro, Hammer Bro, that was standing like on a ledge before some lava, and you had to like get over him to get to Bowser. It was frustrating, it was all frustrating in both versions. And I sort of think that leads on to the thing with both of these versions, and the physics specifically of both of these games have not aged the best. I don't think. Like comparing them, they're similar. However, they feel a little bit different. It's a little bit difficult to explain how they're different. However, they do feel different, and I don't think they really hold up to, like, I guess what would be considered a standard for nowadays. Not like where, like in Sonic 1. While I can very much agree that Sonic 1, the game itself, has not aged pretty well, I feel Sonic's physics have aged pretty well. I know he doesn't have like the spin dash yet or anything like that, however, like rolling down hills and all that sort of thing, like building up momentum, like that's all aged pretty well, I think. Where in Mario, it feels somewhat off, I think, especially because I haven't played the original game that much. I've dabbled with it every now and then, however, I've never gotten far into the game, therefore some things like, yeah, the physics, it kind of was a little bit strange, I guess, to me, and I don't think they have aged the best. However, yeah, and then there's things like some small things which I understand because it was the first game and all that sort of thing. However, it doesn't really, it's a little bit different as it when it was like new compared to looking back on it after previous games. However, like Mario tends to, when he hits a block, he will bounce off it properly, where in the first game he sort of goes through the block. Sort of, only half through the block though. Like it slows him down, however he doesn't bounce back down, he doesn't go for it properly. It feels really wrong. And that's something I sort of found throughout the game with a lot of things. Yeah, no, I think the physics have not aged the best. I find him very slippery to control in both versions. It's kind of interesting. However, I must say I think the original version, I feel, has better physics than the remake, which I don't know if that's different to what most people think or not. I'm not sure. I haven't seen too much on it. However, to me at least, the physics feel better in the original version over the remake. And I think that's something I'm going to probably find with Lost Levels now that I've started playing it as well. However, yeah. And then there's something that's sort of different about this original game, which I was not expecting because I hadn't played it that much, were the power-ups in the game. They work a little bit differently compared to the newer games, and it's something they didn't change in the remake at all either, where you have a power-up, say you have a fire flower. In the newer games, you get hit, you lose the fire flower, and you stay like big, as if you had a mushroom. In the original game, you lose the fire flower and go straight back to being small, and that made the game a lot more difficult for me, which was interesting. I wasn't sort of expecting it going in, and yeah, it's something that's like, it felt like trying to keep items was much more of a, not necessarily like a challenge as such, more of a little bit more of a hassle, I guess, for me at least. Like it was more challenging, yes, however, like I didn't really feel like the first game really needed more challenge. Considering it's the first game, it's not like they specifically designed it around the fact that like, oh, there was like games before or anything like that and they should make it more challenging like that. No, like, this is the first game, that's simply how it was back then. However, like, yeah, I found that made it a little bit more challenging, which is interesting. However, and after getting through all that sort of stuff, I must say, most of the Mario elements are in these first game, like in this first game. But that was something interesting that I found. Like, a lot of things that like everybody knows Mario for, the way jumping was, like the enemies and all that sort of stuff, like a lot of them were in the first game, and I think that's interesting to see. Like a lot of things have carried throughout the series. I think it's going to sort of be where I look at Mario 2, which was not originally a Mario game, and I can sort of put the first game and that game together, and it sort of makes like a current day Mario game almost, in like what is like included in the game. Because yeah, that's sort of what it's sort of like most of the elements are already there in these like initial outings, and I think that's pretty interesting to see. However, I guess sort of to like sum it up a little bit, I think this game is a good start to like the franchise, and I mean the original game is like definitely it's a huge landmark in gaming. Like I do think the original plays better than the remake of it. both have aged. I think both have aged, not necessarily for the best. However, I think, like myself, I had my fun and all that sort of thing. I had lots of fun with it. I don't think I'm going to be going back to them for a while. I probably won't go back to the All-Stars version, to be completely honest. If I do go back to the original, it's probably because of some sort of novelty thing. Like, they have the Game & Watch version that has, like, the original Mario on it. Like, that might be a reason where I would go back to it. However, I probably wouldn't play it all the way through or anything like that. Like, I think the original Mario Bros. Is, like, a game you go to for history rather than for... Like, you get enjoyment out of it. Like, the game is fun. Like, it's a Mario game overall. The entire game is pretty fun. However, like, I think it's a game that you go back to for, like, checking out what Mario was as compared to now rather than anything. Yeah. However, yeah, no, but both the games, I mean, the same game, however, the remake and the original, both quite fun. I do recommend them overall, I guess, is how I'd say it. However, like, it's not something I would probably stick with, I guess. If I were to have to, like, it's not a game I would take to, like, a deserted island to keep playing over and over again. Like, it's something I think I'd get a little bit frustrated with, or I'd get really, really good at it and get pretty bored or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, good games. However, they have aged is probably probably the best thing to leave it off. Anyway, yeah, next up for this marathon is Kirby's Adventure, and that will be out next month. Probably the last day of the month again. That seems to be the best sort of area. Therefore, yeah, I think that for today might be all from me. I hope everybody enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I shall be back in the next one. Cheers, everyone.